Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So this is Mental Health Talk with yours truly. Still coming live from my apartment due to some other unforeseen things that happened, but we're gonna get into this today. My website is down. I'm trying to rebuild it. I'm moved to a new location, so it's still up and running. But if you need to contact me about anything, you can always message me here on Facebook, message me on this page or BYC Become Your C. I still have my Instagram available. It's at Become Your C, TikTok at Become Your C, YouTube also. Subscribe to that. That's where all my podcasts are on. You can search through them. It may be something that you can relate to. It's BYC Become Your C. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get into the BYC community. I have a lot of different things coming about this year and hopes to help you on your journey as well. Also, if you're interested in learning about the chakras, a holistic approach to mental health and everyday living, you can always message me as well. If you see my page, I have the jewelry on sale right now, $10 for necklaces or bracelets, and the keychains are $5. I also sell incense and incense holders to help enlighten your mood, to clear out the negative energies, right? We're all energetic beings, and so we must create spaces for us to be able to flow freely. So what the incense for me, it allows clarity, allows the room to be clear so I can feel more at peace. So if you're interested in learning about chakras, the holistic approach to everyday living to help combat your mental health, I created the company with people in mind to help them on their journey, right? Life is all about a journey. And the more that we get to know ourselves, we can live our life the way that we see fit, right? We have to heal those wounds. That's internally, right? Anything internal manifests into our reality. So I'm trying to help you create the reality in which you want to live in. And this is by dealing with some things that we need to deal with, right? So never feel ashamed for what your mental status is. Never feel ashamed of some mistakes you have made. Never feel ashamed for your past, because everything is a part of you. And the more that you know who you are, the more that you can grow and become a better version of yourself. And this is what this journey is all about. A journey for self-discovery. You won't get to know who your full self is if you don't unlock that part of you. And this is by meditating. This is by asking yourself constant questions. This is by digging deep within yourself. We only can get to where we want to be if we know who we are today and begin to work on that. So again, if you're interested in learning about chakras, about holistic, message me. If you just need to talk, you have a lot of things on your mind, we can have a conversation as well, so I can get you or help you to get to the point where you want to be in your life. So today I'm going to talk about mental health, the most common mental health disorders in the United States. So coming in at number 1, this is according to WHO, is depression, right? And depression is sadness, but depression is a long period of sadness, lasting 6 to 8 weeks. And it can come in various times, right? You can go months without having a depressive episode, but then when you do have it, it can last for a long time. Over the last year, I've had about 4 or 5 depressive episodes, ranging from 1 week and then a whole month, just about. So it's important that you recognize that the sadness is okay. Things happen, we become sad. But when that sadness starts to affect your mental health, your emotional health, it starts weighing you down, you may need to start seeking out help, right? It's important to know that we don't have to deal with everything ourselves. There are people out there that is willing to help, but you have to take the first initial step and say, hey, I know something is not right with me. Let me go get the help that I need. And there is various forms of getting help, such as therapy. Some people use religion, my holistic approach, or medication. You got to find something that works benefits to you. So if you feel that you've been in a sad place for a very long time, you may be depressed. So you may need help. Maybe you're not depressed. Maybe it's just some things going on in your life. But I urge you to go get the proper diagnosis so you can get the help that you need, so you can be the best that you can for yourself. Right? The second is bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder is associated with depression, but you have mood swings, right? You can be really high, energetic, and then you can be really low and depressed. So this is what bipolar basically is. Kind of like borderline personality disorder, but borderline is kind of more out there, right? So if you find yourself that you go through periods of you're high intense, high energetic, you got to do things, but then you also have periods of you're down all the time, you could be bipolar. 3 million people in the U.S. suffer from bipolar disorder each year, and they don't know why people have bipolar disorder. A lot of times things can be chemical, biological, environmental, genetic is biological. Also, certain health issues can cause mental health disorders as well. So it's important to know your status and know where you're at. The third one is schizophrenic disorder, right? Schizophrenic is a combination of mood disorders, depression, and bipolar. They can happen at the same time, or they can happen at different times. So you have a combination. So this is basically when you see people, they may be happy, they may be sad, and they seem like they're going all over the place. Most likely they are schizophrenic, but I can't diagnose that because I'm not the proper doctor for it. So again, if you find yourself where you're just going around in circles, some people with schizophrenia also have delusions and hallucinations, depressed, and periods of high energy. So basically your emotions is going up and down, right? You're happy, you're sad, you're happy, you're sad. You're hearing things. You're thinking thoughts, right? You're imagining things that's not there. That is associated with schizophrenic. So it's not uncommon. About 200,000 cases in the U.S. per year suffer from schizophrenic episodes. So if you are one of those people, and if you feel like this relates to you, like these are your symptoms, again, go get the proper diagnosis. What's sad is that a lot of people are suffering and they don't get the proper diagnosis. And sometimes you may have to go to more than one doctor to get the proper diagnosis. Sometimes, for me, my experience, some doctors is just checking boxes just to get a paycheck, right? You want to make sure you feel comfortable with the person that you are giving your information to, giving your life to. You're sharing yourself with someone, and you want that and be able to trust this person. Sometimes it takes a few times before you find the right person that will fit what you are looking for. And again, this is not an overnight fix, right? A lot of times these disorders develop from childhood. A lot of times children deal with issues and they don't get addressed, and it turns into a more severe issue. So I urge you, if you see it in children as well, if you see that your child may be sad, more sad at times, or more like going through emotions, just talk with your child. Ask your children things. It's not shameful to be in therapy. I was in therapy. My son was in therapy for a couple different things. Children go through things just like as adults, but we want to address the issues head on and early enough that they don't manifest into something larger that we could have controlled. And some things can't be controlled. Again, if it's biological, genetic, there's nothing that we can do. we already predisposed to certain situations. But what we can do is recognize it when it happens and to be able to tackle it as soon as possible so that we can get the help that we need so that it doesn't transpire into something bigger. Dementia can also be seen as a mental health disorder, and what dementia is, it's a chronic or persistent disorder of the mental processes caused by brain disease or energy and marked by memory disorder, personality changes, and impaired reasoning. So a lot of times we see this in our elderly population, right? Dementia, early onset dementia. And from what I read earlier, certain foods cause dementia, certain traumas cause dementia. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to those that are loved ones, right? Especially when they're older. You don't really hear too many younger people with dementia, but it can happen. We want to pay attention to our loved ones, right? A lot of times, our memory as we age, some of our memory leaves us. I know at 37, sometimes I forget things, right? So it's important that you recognize it. And there are things that you can do to help prevent it or help prolong it. Diet definitely plays a role. Our environment plays a role in dementia. Again, they said head injuries. A lot of elderly people tend to slip and fall. And if they hit their head, that could be an impact on their memory. So you want to pay attention to our elderly, but people as well as we age, and making sure that they get the help that they need, making sure you recognize the signs. And we shouldn't make it feel shameful. I know as we get older, we're not going to be the same people that we are, but definitely it's important that if we can prepare and try to prevent as much as possible for when we get older, right? Right now, while we are in our younger stages, we can do something about it. But what happens is people, they want to do that have that YOLO mentality and do whatever they want, and not realizing the things that we do now affect us as we get older. Like, let's say you're eating unhealthy now. Okay, it's fine. You eat whatever you want. You don't have to exercise. You don't have to do this. But as we get older, our bodies, right, slow down, right? Our metabolism slow down. So we have to do things now in order to prepare us as we age. We can't control everything, but those things that we can control, we have to take a proactive role in how we want our life to be. We can combat some of these issues if we hit it early on. So now, as young adults, as middle age, let's do things that can help our mental status, especially with dementia, right? Read the labels, pay attention to what we put into our bodies, right? Try to do things that can enhance your quality of life and don't take away from it. So the next issue is developmental disorders, autism, right? So autism, it seems like it's more common, and I'm not going to really put my 2 cents into that, but autism is the most common mental health disorder, right? 200,000 cases each year. So what autism is a disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. So it's important, and this is a lot of times diagnosed in children. If you find that your child is not developing the way that you should, or if you feel as a parent, then try to go get them the help that you need. Autism range, right? You have severe autism, and then you have high functioning autism people. There are adults that have autism that are high functioning, they work, they take care of their own home. It's just a diagnosis so that you can get the help that you need so that you can function properly. You should never be ashamed if your child have autism or you as an adult have autism. It's just having a diagnosis so that we can figure out what we can do to help enhance the quality of your life. And it ranges, right? They don't know where autism comes from, but there are symptoms that come along with it that may be helpful in receiving a proper medical diagnosis. So again, if you feel like your child is not communicating very well, they're not responding to their name, they're doing things repetitively, they're obsessed with certain non-traditional things, make sure you pay attention, right? Children are going to be children. Children learn as they grow, so it's important to recognize what's normal behavior. And I think as parents, we know our child and we know when something is off. So make sure you pay attention to your children and that you can get the help that they need, because a lot of times, nurturing can help them become better than what they are, right? So that was according to Hill. And then I'm going to read some from the Health Journal. So Health Journal, again, autism is one of the top mental health disorders. Anxiety, we all know what anxiety is, right? Anxiety is constantly worrying about the now. We're worrying about the now. And what happens when you constantly worry, anxiety has a lot of physical symptoms like heart palpitations, numbness, dizziness, foggy brain, your breathing, you feel weak or tired. If you ever had an anxiety or panic attack, after you have it, you feel exhausted. You feel like you done worked out. You feel like you're always in danger, right? If this resembles you, I have anxiety and panic combined, and some days is okay, some days it's not. But what I've learned to do is recognize when it's happening, and it's a thought process, right? So when you feel like you're in danger or anything's a trigger, your brain is telling you to protect yourself. And this is where a lot of them symptoms are. So it's basically reprogramming your brain to tell yourself that you are safe, that you don't need to worry about it. And this is through consistent efforts, right? For me, I meditate a lot, so I do deep breathing. I recognize when there is an issue, so I try to channel my thought process, and this takes time. This takes knowing yourself, paying attention to the symptoms, so when an issue arises, you can tackle it head on. Some days are better than others. Some days I'll have little mini panic attacks, anxiety attacks throughout the day. I can go a day or two without one. But knowing that I have to learn myself, right? Certain foods, certain drinks trigger it. So I try to limit those as much as I can so that I don't have to feel. Because if you ever had a panic and anxiety, it takes a lot out of you. You fear like you're going to die. Your heart starts beating fast. You have heart palpitations. You start sweating. Your hands can get numb. So it does resemble a heart attack, and you are fearful, right? I learned how to breathe, learning the techniques of dealing with the chakras of why I'm having panic and anxiety. It helps me not to have to always rush to the hospital, because I went to the hospital so many times dealing with panic and anxiety. I started to recognize, okay, this is where it's at. I do a lot of grounding work. Sometimes when I can, when the weather's outside is good, I just go outside and I stick my feet on the ground. And for me, that helps. So you got to find something that helps you. Whether it seems silly or not, you have to get yourself in the best mental space as possible. And whatever that means to you. And if it looks odd and weird to someone else, at the end of the day, we're trying to get you to get to a place where you feel the most comfortable and at peace. And you have to do what works for you, and it's not going to work for everyone else. Again, depression is another mental health disorder. This is according to the Health Journal. I already discussed that, long periods of sadness, dissociative disorder, right? It's also called DID, dissociative identity disorder. This is multiple personality disorders, and it's exactly how it sounds. So, dissociative identity disorder is a reaction to trauma, right? So a lot of times people have multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder because they dealt with trauma a lot of times in their childhood. So you create different versions of yourself, right? Different personalities to cope with the trauma that you had. You can have 2 different identities, 3, 4, depending on how severe the trauma is. You create these versions to escape the trauma, to deal with. Like, let's say someone was sexually abused as a child. So they're going to create a version of themselves that takes them away from that makes that okay. You'll see people that may be hypersexually active. They created that to feel comfort, to take away the effects of the abuse. The only way to get diagnosed is to get properly diagnosed, which means you need to go to the doctor. If you know someone, or if you are someone that this relates to you, that you had to create, or you dealt with a lot of trauma where sometimes you're this one person and people have told you like, hey, you act this way sometimes and sometimes you act like this. Basically, Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, right? You created versions of yourself or different personalities to cope with life. There's nothing wrong with that. I want you to get the help that you need so you can feel the best. There are no cures for mental health disorder. They're trying to, make medicine and certain techniques that you can use to help. You have to be comfortable with who you are and recognizing that, hey, this is not who I want to be. I want to become better. And learning how to control, if you do have multiple personalities, learning how to control them so that they become one, so that you can be the best version of yourself. So if this relates to you, again, go get the proper diagnosis. Make sure you find. And it is characterized as 2 distinct. So you have multiple, but they're real, right? They function as that person. Like, let's say I am who I am today. I'm Christina, but my alternate person may be, give me a name, Maria. So if I'm Maria, I'm more outgoing, I'm outspoken, I'm doing crazy stuff, right? That's 2 different people. So me, I'm calm, I'm relaxed. So now if I have another version of myself, I'm destructive. I'm going to create chaos. I'm going to fight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So that's 3 personalities, right? And this is a lot of people do suffer from this. 200,000, well, it says fewer than, okay, so not a lot. So fewer than 200,000 people a year. So it's not a common, but this is a disorder that needs to be paid attention to. So if you feel like that you are more than one person, you may be. And I can get deep into why I feel like people do have multiple personalities, but that's on a more spiritual level. I can talk about that at another time. If you want to have a conversation, if you feel like you can relate to this, please message me and we can have a conversation about it. Eating disorders. Eating disorders is a common disorder in the United States. And we've heard of the most common ones, right? Bulimia Anorexia, right? One is when you refuse to eat, you control your eating. You limit to your eating so that you don't gain weight. So it's basically you see your body, and even though you're extremely skinny, you stop eating, right? Because you don't want to gain weight. Some people make themselves throw up. I'm sorry, I forgot which. Okay, so anorexia is, they said it develops in childhood. You're always underweight. You're restricted in your eating patterns. This is anorexia, and you're extremely thin. So you have OCD. So OCD is a result of having anorexia. And so OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, you have to control everything. Everything has to be rigid. It has to go in a certain pattern. A lot of people with anorexia exercise a lot. They're really trying to stay in their pattern. Bulimia, it tends to develop in childhood. You eat a lot of food in one period, but then you quickly throw up. So you eat, but you get rid of it because you don't want to gain the weight from eating. So they'll like say eat 5,000 calories. That's called a binge in one sitting, and then throw it all up. They take laxatives and diuretics in order to get rid of the food. Binge disorder. So binge disorder, you eat in secret, right? You eat large amounts of food in secret. You don't want people to know that you're eating these, so you hide it. And people with binge disorder can be overweight. So let's say and we've seen 600-pound life, 600-pound life on TV. So you eat in hiding, right? Let's say you're having a family dinner, but since you're addicted to food, you'll eat beforehand and eat there again, and you may eat at home. They can't control it. So it's important to know pica is a eating disorder that involves things that are not food, like dirt, soil, chalk, detergent, cornstarch. This is a disorder, and it's a lot of people, my weird addictions that people have. So if you recognize these as something that you may deal with, please get the help that you need. We want you here as long as possible. And it's not shameful to have these. This is something that you have, that you're trying to get to some normalcy. When people have these disorders, it's hard to function because, one, we need food to survive. That is the one thing that is hard when it becomes an addiction or you're afraid of it. You can overeat or undereat, and that is an issue because we need the amount of calories we need to function on a daily basis. Food should not be something that is fearful, but for some people it is. It can be overwhelming. It can be over-consuming. And so we have to recognize this as an issue and deal with it head on. Paranoia. I know this is a lot of definitions, but I'm trying to give people some symptoms and maybe they can relate to you so you can get the help you need. So paranoia is another disorder, an unrealistic distrust of others or feeling of being persecuted. Extreme dangers may be sign. So this is thinking someone's talking about you, someone's stalking you, there's people watching you, people listening on your phone calls. This is what paranoia is, constantly checking corners and watching your back. Now, we're supposed to be cautious of our surroundings at the end of the day. This world is not a safe place. But this is taken into extreme. You may barricade yourself in the house. You have boards up. You don't say too much on the phone. You're cautious, overly cautious about going out. Or if you do go out, you protect yourself. This is an extreme case. So pay attention. If you know people like that, I knew someone that was like this. And it's not fun. You always live in fear, and you always feel like you got to protect yourself. Psychosis. So psychosis is, give me a second. All right, psychosis. Psychosis is like schizophrenia. You're disconnected from reality, right? Delusions, hallucinations, talking incoherently, and agitation. So you're delusional, you hallucinate a lot. So you hear things that you haven't heard, but you think you heard. You're thinking thoughts that aren't realistic, right? You're creating realities in your head which don't exist. You're talking nonsense. You're talking things that doesn't make sense, or you are agitated a lot. You're always on guard. So if that resembles you, you may have psychosis and again schizophrenia, and I already discussed that. And you can, what's crazy is that you can have more than one disorder. A lot of people that have one mental health disorder most likely have another one, right? Me, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have panic, I have OCD, and I have PTSD. I recognize that I have those issues but I don't let them control me. I don't know when an anxiety or panic ever is going. I don't know when I'm going to become depressed. It's a thing of knowing when these symptoms arise, and then tackle it head on. And again, every day is not the same, so you don't know how you're going to feel on a day-to-day. The only thing you could do is have a plan in place. That's why I said it's important to do as much as you can. What I started doing in the last couple months, and it's been working, is set many goals for myself each day. Like, I'm going to accomplish these three things today, and I'm going to get them done no matter how I feel, because I think it's important to have set minor goals for yourself. And if I can do more, I push myself a little bit to do this more. Some days I can accomplish a lot, and then some days I don't feel up to it, but I know because that day before I accomplished all of them that I'm going to be right on track. But I still get myself and accomplish small goals. And small goals for yourself is like getting out the bed, making the bed, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, getting food prepared, right? Exercising, doing something to make it seem normal, right? It's hard to function when you are dealing with more than one mental health disorder. But it is possible, but it takes consistent effort on your part, knowing yourself, knowing that, hey, I need help. I cannot do this by myself anymore, and reaching out to someone. Where I started at was groups, and then led into therapy, and led into researching about the chakra system for my own self. Some days I have great days. Some days I don't have some great days, but I know that I'm going to push through those days, and pushing yourself through, but taking time to take care of yourself also. Last week I talked about self-care. You got to know yourself. You got to know who you are. You got to know that this is just a diagnosis. It does not define who you are. It's getting you the help that you need so you can function as best as possible in this reality in which we live in, so that you can create a reality in which is for yourself, which you want to live in. If that makes any sense. Trying to make you feel the best as possible as you can in the headspace that you have. We can't control everything, right? These diagnoses just put you on a path so that you can help start preparing yourself and creating, and so that you can function as well as possible, right? These are not going to go away. Medication, it helps, but medication doesn't take away the disorder. It just helps you be able to live and function as best as possible. You can still take medication and go to therapy and still have these symptoms, but it's just teaching you how to live the best that you can. And there are side effects to medication. So make sure you do your research. Make sure you talk to your doctor as much as possible. How to get the proper assessment: by going to the doctor, by doing your own research. What causes mental health illness? Again, it can be biological, genetics, environment, chemical imbalance. It could be the foods that we eat. It could be physical illness. Like if you have diabetes can have anxiety and panic attack. That's why it's important to get a medical diagnosis first. When I was going to therapy, my therapist sent me to the doctor to make sure that I didn't have any illness to rule out that was causing my panic and anxiety. So it's important to go to the doctor as well, the regular doctor, to get proper diagnosis. Why is this still a stigma? Because I think people label people that are different from them, right? I think people think you're strange when it's something different about you, and a lot of times we judge things that we don't understand. And so again, it is still a stigma about people that suffer from mental health, that you're crazy and weird and strange, and why you do those things, and why, that's why you act like that. There is no perfect person on this planet. Even if you're considered normal, everyone has something that they are trying to work out, right? And that's what I started looking at it. It's just something that we need to work on, right? And when we have a mental health disorder, it's something that we need to work on to help us feel normal. Just like if you're overly aggressive, right? Okay, that's something that you need to work on so that you don't push off people or that you can function in society. And that's all people with mental health disorders are trying to do. Function as an individual in the society that we live in, right? But not feeling ashamed that we have this diagnosis either. It can be an issue again as well if you don't have access to healthcare that you need. If you don't have access, if you have Medicaid, that can help. But if you're not able to pay for health insurance, you're not going to get the proper help you need. So research and search out for as much resources as possible. Some people do pro bono. Some people do a sliding scale. When I was going to therapy, she did a sliding scale because I didn't have insurance at that time, and I was able to get the help that I need. What's next after your diagnosis? Making out a plan. So you should have, if you're doing therapy, you should seek out the therapist that can provide you with the tools and the help that you need and that you feel comfortable with that person. If you don't, then find someone. You may have to keep researching and find someone that fits you. Don't just settle for any therapist. You are trusting this person with your life, your thought process and everything. You want to make sure that you find the person that fits you. It's just like a job. If you do the religion aspect, make sure you feel comfortable in sharing this information with your religion affiliate, right? We all believe in different things, and that is okay. You're not judged by what you believe in if you choose to use religion as a source to help you on your mental health journey. But make sure you feel comfortable. Make sure you feel you can trust the person that you're sharing your information with. Don't allow people to take your mental health status as a way to talk down on you, right? So definitely trust. If you choose to use a holistic approach, again, there's things that you have to do. You have to be consistent. You have to work on it. You have to practice it, just like anything else. If you choose to take medication to help you, again, do your research. You may try something and it may not work for you. You may try something and it counteracts something else. Taking medication is trial and error because it can help one thing and then cause something else. So again, do your research, try. If it's not working, talk to your doctor. Maybe you can do something else. Why do some people reject help? Because of the stigma, because it's costly, because you don't want to feel let down. People sometimes don't want to help because they don't want to be let down. They think that they can do it on your own. And some people can. You can function on your own, but again, you have to be consistent in whatever you choose to do for yourself. What to do if you know someone who is suffering. So, if you know someone that has some of these symptoms, what you can do is offer help. Suggest that they, go talk to a doctor. But at the end of the day, if that person does not want help, you kind of got to let them be. Not like distance yourself. I mean, if they're causing chaos, if they're doing things that are toxic, then yeah, you may have to distance yourself. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do is be the best person that you can be for that person. But allow that person space to talk. And at the end of the day, when someone wants help and they're tired of living the way that they're living, they're going to get the help that they need. But just be as supportive as you can and the space that you can. If it becomes toxic, yes, please all do remove yourself from that space. But be a supportive person, because at the end of the day, when we are going through stuff, we want people to support us. So be that friend, be that comfort. What do you do if you're suffering yourself? Go get the help that you need. You don't have to suffer in silence. Also, if you are ever feeling let down, you feeling like you want to leave this earth, you feel like ends, they have a suicide hotline. I understand how you feel. I've been there. The suicide hotline is 1-800-273-8255, or you can visit them on suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Don't let this be your last straw. The help is there. Please push yourself to get the help that you need so you don't have to suffer in silence. I'm coming up on the last couple minutes. I don't want to keep y'all long, but I thought it was important to let y'all know what's common and that you are not alone. A lot of people are suffering just like you and I, and it's important that we get the help that we need. It's important to know that these issues are there, and it's important to know that help is available. Just reach out. Don't feel like you have to deal with this on your own. Life is overwhelming in itself. And the sooner that we get the proper diagnosis, the sooner that we can create a plan for our life so that we can start living the life that we want, creating the reality that we want so we can function and feel better about ourselves. Again, every day ain't the same. And we have to have a plan in place for those days that are not so great. Sometimes we are going to stay in bed longer because we are in a depressed state. But at the end of the day, if we have a plan in place, we can allot that time. Like, hey, like for me, I don't allow myself to stay in a depressed state too long, even though I said like it was a month that I felt low. At the end of the day, even during those times where I felt low, I still try to function as much as I can. Being consistent in your efforts, being consistent in every day, being consistent in your healing process will get you to the point where you feel some normalcy. Remember, it's just a diagnosis. It doesn't define who you are. It doesn't map out your life. It doesn't create the reality for you. You create the reality for you. You have to get the help that you need so that you can function to the best possible, so to function to your full capacity. You don't know who you are yet. We don't know who we are. We only are the person that we are today. When we help ourselves, when we start to heal, we unlock another part of ourselves that we never knew existed. And this is why I wanted to create a space for people to be open and to talk and to let them know that it's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to not be happy all the time. It's okay to have a diagnosis and still function. And you can go on to do great things. You can still have these diagnoses and still have a full life. Knowing it's just a medical diagnosis, but it doesn't define you. You define who you are. You can still function with a mental health label, right? And that's all I wanted to share with you. If you're ever feeling that you need to talk to someone, if you ever feel let down, if you ever feel like giving up, reach out to me. We can have a conversation. If you're interested in learning about the holistic approach, please message me as well too. I don't have all the answers. I still learn every day as I grow. I still learn, but what I do know is that as long as you continue to be consistent, continue to know that you are worth it, continue to know that you're fighting for yourself, you're going to be able to create the reality in which you want to live in, as long as you don't give up on yourself. I don't want you to give up on yourself. I want you to be here. We all have purpose, and we need to live out our purpose. We need to know what we're here for, and you can function in spite of your diagnoses. You can function in this reality. So create the reality in what you want to live in, and that's through wanting to evolve and wanting to change and wanting to grow. You're unique and you're special and you're okay just the way you are. I'm trying to get people to the point where they discover their self and to start the healing process, because as soon as you start the healing process, you'll feel so much better. As soon as you get the help that you need, you will feel so much better. Take it one day, one moment at a time. Become yourself. So that's all I have for you. Again, reach out, enjoy this day, create a plan, and maximize the time that you have on this earth. We only are given a certain amount of time, so we want to be able to live our life to the full capacity. Fall in love with yourself so the world can fall in love with you. Till next time.